Hello everybody, it's me, Liz Marie, and I'm going to share what I read for the month of July and August because I've been gone for like a month and have not posted anything. So this is my reading wrap up. So let's just get into the books. I'm gonna just pull up Goodreads and like meet you over there. Okay, so I believe I read 10 books for July, and then I was having a really hard time in August, so I only got to like 6. I mean, that's still a good number. They were like mostly fantasy, so those are usually a bit thick sometimes. But the first book I read in July was An Echo of Things to Come. The second book in the Licanius trilogy by James Islington has an average rating of 4.23. I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get to the third book. Synopsis. In the wake of the devastating attack on Elan, an amnesty has been declared for all augurs, finally allowing them to emerge from hiding and openly oppose dark forces massing against Andara. However, as Davian and his new allies hurry north toward the ever-weakening boundary, fresh horrors along their paths suggest that their reprieve may have come far too late. In the capital, Wur is forced to contend with assassins and increasingly hostile administration as he controversially assumes the mantle of North Warden, uncovering a mystery that draws into question everything commonly believed about the rebellion his father led 20 years ago. Meanwhile, Asha begins a secret investigation into the disappearance of the Shadows, determined to discover not only where they went, but the origin of the vessels that created them, and ultimately a cure. And with time against him as he races to fulfill the treacherous bargain with Lilith, Caden continues to wrestle with the impossibly heavy burdens of his past. Yet more and more of his memories return, he begins to realize that the motivations of the two sides in this ancient war may not be as clear-cut as they first seemed. So, I really enjoyed this book. I don't know. I can't remember what I rated the first book, but like the whole political intrigue with like Wur and what he's dealing with, because he's not an augur. The Gifted. He's a Gifted, and so they have a problem with him being North Warden. So there's issues there, political-wise, even though like his father made him North Warden, and then people have a problem with his decisions that he made at the end of the first book. So there's that, and then there's Asha, and I really want to find out more about what's going to happen with her. It's been 2 months, so like I'm trying to like I remember like the major things, but I'm trying to remember like more details about the book. My favorite character, I believe, is Caden. I adore him, and he's going through a lot, you know, getting those memories back, all those years of bad decisions, trauma, good memories, bad memories, you know. Did this synopsis, Davian, there's the one, I was like, I'm missing a fourth one. Davian also, I kind of like him a lot too. And then like stuff happened, and my brain, I can't talk, my brain was like, phew. It's like, wow. I probably don't read enough, but it got me. So, can't wait to read the third one. I have been waiting since I finished this one, because I put the third one on hold on Libby, and I have not gotten it, so. The second book I read was The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey. The first book in the Captives War book. It was a new release this year. Has an average rating of 4.25. I gave it 3 stars. But that may have been my own fault because I had higher expectations for it since I really loved the first book of The Expanse. I haven't continued that series yet, so I really should. But yeah, I didn't click as much with this book. But let's read the synopsis. How humanity, that's not what it says. How humanity came to a planet called Anjin is lost in the fog of history, but that history is about to end. The Carrick's past empire, part hive, have waged wars of conquest for centuries, destroying or enslaving species across the galaxy. Now they are facing great and deathless enemy. The key to their survival may rest with the humans of Anjin. Caught up in academic intrigue and affairs of the heart, David Alcor is pleased just to be an assistant to a brilliant scientist and his celebrated research team. Then the Carrick ships descend, decimating the human population and taking the best and brightest of Anjin society away to serve on the Carrick's homeworld, and David is swept along with them. They are dropped in the middle of a struggle they barely understand, set in competition against the other captive species with extinction as the price of failure. Only David and a handful of his companions see past the Darwinian contest to the deeper game that they must play to survive, learning to understand and manipulate the Carricks themselves. With a noble but suicidal human rebellion on one hand and strange and murderous enemies on the other, the team pays a terrible price to become the trusted servants of their new rulers. David Akor is a simple man swept up in events that are beyond his control and more vast than his imagination. He will become the champion of humanity and his betrayer, the most hated man in history and the guardian of his people. This is where his story begins. So, yeah, David is the main character, and I really loved the premise of this book. So I was very excited to read it, but I don't know, there's something about it I just didn't connect as much as I enjoyed The Expanse. But yeah, you get to know their lives of the scientists, the project they're working on. They're being celebrated at the beginning, and then the aliens descend, and everything is obliterated. The world they knew is gone. So I still really enjoyed it. It was a great journey. But it was also a first book, so most of the time I feel like first books are more likely to get, why am I so crooked? To get like a 3-star. It's usually the second book. I feel like the middle book a lot of times is my favorite. The next book I read is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. Average rating is 4.02. I give it 4 stars. 4, quattro. Yeah, an extraordinary novel inspired by the real-life sorority targeted by America's first celebrity serial killer and his final murderous spree. January 1978. A serial killer has terrorized women across the Pacific Northwest, but his existence couldn't be further from the minds of the vibrant young women at the top sorority of Florida State University's campus in Tallahassee. Tonight is a night of promise, excitement, and desire, but Pamela Schumacher, president of the sorority, makes the unpopular decision to stay home, a decision that unwittingly saves her life. Startled awake at 3 a.m. by a strange sound, she makes the fateful decision to investigate. What she finds behind the door is a scene of implausible violence. 2 of her sisters dead, 2 others maimed. Over the next few days, Pamela is thrust into a terrifying mystery inspired by the crime that's captivated public interest for more than 4 decades. On the other side of the country, Tina Cannon has found peace in Seattle after 4 years of hardship. A chance encounter brings 25-year-old Ruth Wachowski into her life, a young woman with painful secrets of her own, and the two form an instant connection. When Ruth goes missing from Lake Sammamish State Park in broad daylight, surrounded by thousands of beachgoers on a beautiful summer day, Tina devotes herself to finding out what happened to her. When she hears about the tragedy in Tallahassee, she knows it's the man the papers refer to as All-American Sex Killer. Determined to make him answer for what he did to Ruth, she travels to Florida on a collision course with Pamela and one less impending tragedy. That is a long synopsis. I'm like trying to get through it so I don't take too long to talk about each book, but that was pretty long. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. I might bump it up to a 5-star because I'm thinking about this book. I would reread it, and I absolutely loved how they took these horrific events where the media focuses on the serial killer more so than the victims, and this focuses on the women that were affected. Not only the families, but like the women surrounding them. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really got me in my feels. Like when the first night, just her going through it and being in shock, and like it was giving me anxiety, and I was like, I don't know how I would react in that kind of situation, like at all. So, really good book if you haven't read it. It's real great, real good. Oh my gosh. This next book, I love it so much. I love it. American Rapture by C.J. Lead. If you don't already know, I love C.J. Lead. Average rating is 4.51. I give it 5 stars, guys. 5 stars. Okay, I loved Mayfly. I love this one, I think, even more. I was a little bit thrown off, even though I had read the synopsis, so I should have known, but my brain doesn't keep things sometimes, so a lot of times I go back into the book and I don't remember what the synopsis is. I just know I wanted to read it. But yeah, there's just like one thing that threw me off when I was reading it, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I got over it quickly, and I just love this book. What was that noise? It's like 9 o'clock at night, and I feel like my neighbors can hear me, and it's really pretty awkward for me. Because I'm just sitting here talking to a camera, trying to do YouTube videos. But synopsis is pretty short for this one, after I just did a long-winded one. A virus is spreading across America, transforming the infected and making them feral with lust. Sophie, a good Catholic girl, must traverse the hellscape of the Midwest to try to find her family while the world around her burns. Along the way, she discovers there are far worse fates than dying a virgin. So, it's pretty straightforward, but that synopsis doesn't encapsulate the amazingness that is this book. I got so attached to these characters, I was completely devastated by the end. I was just almost cried. I was devastated. I was like 5 stars immediately. I was like, when you finish a book and you get that feeling in your chest, like you've been really affected, you know it's a 5-star book. But yeah, there's a pandemic going around, and the victims of this disease or infection, they become feral, like they're rabid with rabies or something, and lustful. So it's like a bunch of people like getting attacked by people and as aid. And I was like, that was the thing I had completely forgot was a part of this book. And I didn't expect it to come across that way. She just says feral with lust. But I guess like that would make sense. But I was so like thrown off by that when it first started happening. I was like, what in the heck is going on? And then the fact that Sophie's a Catholic girl, and a lot of people with religion can grow up with a lot of shame. So like the topics of like sex and then your religion and her trying to navigate this while she's fighting for her life. I really connected with it, and I loved it. I love this book so much. It was great. The next book I read was Moves the Dead, the first book of the Sworn Soldier series by T. Kingfisher, average rating 3.89. I gave it 3 stars. I think I'm going to need a new battery for the camera. It's going to die. But it's the book that's inspired by The Fall of the House of Usher. I love me some Edgar Allan Poe, so I was very excited to read this. Okay, synopsis. When Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruravia. What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with the mysterious malady of the nerves. Aided by a redoubtable British mycologist and a baffled American doctor, Alex must unravel the secret of the House of Usher before it consumes them all. So, I read this book. I reread the short story by Edgar Allan Poe after I read this book, because I remember like the main things happened because I really enjoyed it. But I really love how T. Kingfisher focused more on the fungus aspect that was barely acknowledged in the original story, I feel like, and like elaborated on that. So that was like my favorite part of this, was the fungus. It was very creepy what the fungus does. Like the thought, ugh, so gross. So gross. But I really appreciate it. Maybe it's more than the 3-star. 3.5? If I could 3.5 maybe. Then I read The Fall of House of Usher. Average rating 3.87, Edgar Allan Poe. You already know. I gave this 4 stars because I just love the short story. I love Edgar. Okay, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should, maybe upon reread, What Moves the Dead would get a 4-star. I don't know, because the whole fungus thing, I loved it. So same reason why I loved Mexican Gothic, like that aspect of it really grossed me out. And I loved it for Gothic horror. The synopsis. Where does it start? With the amazing economy? No. They don't really give like an actual synopsis, but it's basically the same, except that T. Kingfisher put her own twist to it. And yeah, like I said, elaborated on the fungus aspect that's mentioned in the original short story. Then I read What Feasts at Night, the second book of the Sworn Soldier series by T. Kingfisher. Average rating 3.88. I gave it 3 stars. I prefer What Moves the Dead over this one. So maybe I'll bump up What Moves the Dead to 4. Just because the fungus was just so gross. Okay. Synopsis. The follow-up to Teen Kingfisher's best-selling gothic novella, What Moves the Dead, retired soldier Alex Easton returns in a horrifying new adventure. After their terrifying ordeal at the Usher Manor, Alex Easton feels as if they just survived another war. All they crave is rest, routine, and sunshine, but instead, as a favor to Angus and Miss Potter, they find themselves heading to their family hunting lodge. Deep in the cold, damp forests of their home country, Galatia, in theory, one can find relaxation in even the coldest and dampest of Galatian autumns, but when Easton arrives, they find the caretaker dead, the lodge is in disarray, and the grounds troubled by strange, uncanny sounds. The villagers whisper that the breath-stealing monster from folklore has taken up residence in Easton's home. Easton knows better than to put too much stock in local superstitions, but they can tell that something is not quite right in their home, or in their dreams. The whole aspect with the mythical, witch that sits on your chest and steals your breath away just makes me think of, paralysis demon. Having sleep paralysis, and I used to suffer from that. Okay, thank God it went away. But, yeah. I mean, that was pretty fun. I like that aspect that I didn't, it was different enough from the first book, but just featuring, same characters, so you get to revisit them again, so it was fun. It was cute. I liked it, 3 stars. Then, to take a little break, I read a poetry collection called Smoke and Mirrors by Michael Faudet. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name or their last name correctly. Average rating 3.71, and I unfortunately gave it 2 stars. Poetry book isn't really going to have a synopsis, but I just didn't connect with the poetry. That's why I got 2 stars. There was a few that I really loved, but it was a few and far between, so I wasn't enjoying the majority of this collection, unfortunately. And I finally read it. I had it sitting on my shelves for 3-4 years, and I didn't touch it. So that's that. The next, second to last book I read for the month of July was Gardens of the Moon. I finally got to do the mountain. I'm very interested in moving forward to the Mountain Book of the Fallen #1. A neighbor just walked by, and they could totally hear me because I'm by the front door. I'm in the hallway to the front door with my bookshelf, so that's just awkward. But let me start over. Second to last book, I read Gardens of the Moon, first book in the Mountain Book of the Fallen series by Steven Erikson. Average rating 3.92. I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed the characters in this. Synopsis. Vast legions of gods, mages, humans, dragons, and all manner of creatures play out the fate of Malazan Empire in this first book in major epic fantasy series from Steven Erikson. The Malazan Empire simmers with discontent, bled dry by interminable warfare, bitter infighting, and bloody confrontations with formidable Anomander Rake and his Tisty Andy, ancient and implacable sorcerers. Even the Imperial legions, long inured to the bloodshed, yearn for some respite. Yet Empress Lassine's rule remains absolute, enforced by her dread claw assassins. For Sergeant Whiskey Jack, fun name, I like that name, and I do like me some whiskey, yeah. And a squad of bridge burners, and for Tattersail, surviving cadre magic of the Second Legion, the aftermath of the Siege of Pale should have been a time to mourn the many dead. But Darujistan, last of the free cities of Ganabakis, yet holds out. It is to this ancient citadel that the Lassine turns her predatory gaze. However, it would appear that the Empire is not alone in this great game. Sinister, shadow-bound forces are gathering as the gods themselves prepare to play their hand. Yeah. Very complicated. You really have to pay attention to what you're reading with this one. I keep leaning back. There's a lot of information. This is one of those fantasy series that are super dense. So you blink and you miss something. If you catch my joke. But I actually really enjoyed it. So I feel like if you enjoyed this series, it's definitely one that you would reread and you would pick up on new information that you might have not picked up the first time. just because it has so much and so many characters. But I loved it. Definitely loved it, and I'm into it. I think it's like a 10-book series too, so that's crazy. That's crazy. The last book I read for the month of July is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Average rating 3.83. I'm debating between a 3 or 4 star. I feel like I enjoyed this book more so than the vast majority, because I mean the average rating is around 3. Where does the synopsis start? The Spanish Golden Age. In a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid, Lucia Cortado uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers the lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Lucia use those gifts to better the family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Lucia garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favor. Determined to seize this one chance to better her fortunes, Lucia plunges into the world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science, and fraud is never certain. But as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Guillaume Santangel, an embittered immortal familiar whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. So overall, I really did enjoy this. Initially, when I read the title Familiar when it was announced, I immediately thought vampires. But it's not vampires. He's just like a familiar, like a witch's companion. Except I guess kind of, because Lucia's the witch, I guess you could say. And there's a love between them that some people didn't enjoy. I actually did. I was into it. I was into it. Definitely. But, there's the aspect where he goes too far to the person he's connected to, and the reason why he's immortal, and he turns to ash. So I guess, that aspect's kind of vampiric. But, yeah. And there's, a competition style. She enters a competition to be, I don't remember what the term was, but, assist the king in trying to defeat the Queen of England. So that's that aspect. So if you like books that have competition aspect to it, you might like Leigh Bardugo's The Familiar. Because I did. I sure did. Still debating on that rating though. Alright guys, let's move on to August. Oh wow, my battery's at 6%. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You just wait. I'm gonna come right back. Just give me a second. In and back. Got a fresh battery going 100%, so it shouldn't die again. Unless something goes horribly wrong, like a glitch or something. Which, dealing with me, I tend to get those tech glitches. Whether it's my mistake or it just happens. But yeah, moving on to August. The first book I read is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I am a Riley Sager girly. I will read every book that comes out from this author. Do not ask me why. Some of them I do really enjoy. Some of them I do not. And some of them fall in the middle. But Middle of the Night, Riley Sager, average rating 3.74. I gave it 3 stars, which tends to be the average rating that I give Riley Sager. There's a couple 2s and a couple 4s, but I think the majority are 3 stars. Okay, synopsis. Where does it start? The worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced the tent open with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keep appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank? Or has Billy, long thought to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? The mysterious occurrences prompt Ethan to investigate what really happened that night, a quest that reunites him with former friends and neighbors and leads him into the woods that surround Hemlock Circle. Woods where Billy claimed monsters roamed and where a mysterious institute does clandestine research on a crumbling state. The closer Ethan gets to the truth, the more he realizes that no place, be it quiet forest or suburban street, is completely safe, and that the past has a way of haunting the present. Yes, indeed, it does. So, I did enjoy it overall. I gave it 3 stars. I liked Ethan. The background with him and the grief really kind of hit me this past month because of just personal things. So that might have been also part of why I got 3 stars, because I just connected with what the character was going through in some aspects. But also, Brian really likes to hint at the possibility of paranormal, and for the most part, it doesn't happen. I kind of wish he would just stick to it. Give me some paranormal activity. I love it. Give me some ghosts. Some authentic ghosts. But I mean, his stories, I guess, are meant to be kind of grounded in reality. So oh, got a paranormal experience, but oh, it's explainable. This is what actually happened. So yeah. There were some aspects to it, with the whole Billy disappearance thing. I was like, wait, really? That's what really happened? Why? Why did it happen that way? I'm very confused. And then people withheld information concerning that night, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you come forward? And then there was the whole aspect with Billy's brother that I was like, that's just completely left field. I'm like, why? That I really didn't like. I was like, this wasn't necessary. I was over it. I'm like, not necessary at all. But it got 3 stars because it connected to Ethan, and I'm not sorry about it. Then I read Everything We Never Knew by Julian Ho. Average rating 3.15. I gave it 3 stars. This is another book that I really just connected with what she was going through in the book, and I was just like, why do I do this to myself? Somehow I just read books in an order, and then somehow there's an aspect that connects them, and then sometimes it connects back to my life, and I'm just like, why? I don't need to be confronted when I'm trying to escape reading a book, But 3 stars. Synopsis: when the stars align, anything can happen. On stage at an awards banquet in the last place Lexi Cole expected to drown. But as she accepts the award for top seller at her realty firm, something unusual catches Lexi, a man surrounded by a dark haze. Then she hears a woman screaming for help, and the taste of salt water overwhelms her. Just as Lexi's throat begins to close, the man leaves the room, and the sensation of drowning abruptly stops. Later that night, the man dies of an overdose, and Lexi learns about the traumatic boating accident that killed his sons and tore his family apart. Lexi wants to believe it's a bizarre coincidence, and any other explanation would disrupt the normal, comfortable life she's worked so hard to build. Lexi is an expert at denial, a pro at fitting in. But as more strange events unfold, Lexi can't deny that something is changing inside her. She feels other people's emotions, sometimes even glimpses their private memories. By embracing her new abilities, Lexi can help heal people, though not until she confronts the past she spent a lifetime burying. But when a vision reveals her husband is in danger, Lexi must face her inner demons to lose the person she loves most. So, this book hit me in the feels with the conflict between her and her husband, because she was discovering herself and her truth, so to speak. Realizing that the life she is living is not authentic to herself, and realizing she's kind of been on autopilot and just not acknowledging the traumas from her past with her family and any other aspects of her life to this point, and then connecting with herself with abilities and the spirituality aspect that she comes to know. So I really enjoyed it. It was the story of a woman rediscovering herself and actually trying to find a way to live the life authentic to herself. So yeah, it was good. 3 stars. 3 stars is still a good rating. The next book I read is Demon in White, the 3rd book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio. Average rating 4.63. I gave it 4 stars. Synopsis: Hadrian has been serving the Empire in military engagements against the Sielsen, the vicious alien civilization bent on humanity's destruction. After Hadrian and his Red Company achieve a great victory, a cult-like fervor builds around him. However, pressures within the imperial government, scared of his rise to prominence, result in an assassination attempt, luckily thwarted. With the Empire too dangerous to stay, Hadrian and his crew leave for a massive library on a distant world. There he finds the next key to unlocking the secrets of the Quiet. A set of coordinates for the virgin planet, unnamed and now lifeless. Hadrian's true purpose in serving in the military was to aid his search of a rumored connection between the first emperor and the Quiet, the ancient, seemingly long-dead race linked to so many of Hadrian's extraordinary experiences. With this mysterious lost planet, will this mysterious lost planet have the answers? So, borderline 5 stars, possibly, but I love the Sun Eater series so far. Like, this might be controversial, but I prefer it a smidge more over Red Rising. I love both, but there's just something about this series that I really love it. I love the characters. I love the adventures these characters take you on as you discover what Hadrian's journey is to become the Sun Eater. Because you start the series knowing that he destroys the sun. You just don't know how he did it, and so it's him recounting his life in a way. From that, I think from the same library that he enters in this book. But I'm like, I connect to these characters so much. And the whole world building, I just love it. I'm in love. I need to buy like physical copies of the first 3 books at least, because those are the ones I've read. And I love all 3. I love them. The next book I read in August was The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. My first Donna Tartt. Average rating is 3.47. I gave it 1 star. Yeah, 1 star. Yeah, it wasn't for me. It was a buddy read. My friend wanted to read books off her bookshelf, so she chose this one because said she started it multiple times and never finished it. And then my head, as I was reading, I was like, I can see why. It's a little dry. Can I get the synopsis to open? I feel like my phone froze. Oh my gosh, really? You're not gonna... Technical difficulty, there we go. The setting is Alexandria, Mississippi, where one Mother's Day a little boy named Robin Cleve Dufresnes was found hanging from a tree in his parents' yard. 12 years later, Robin's murder is still unsolved and his family remains devastated. So it is Robin's sister Harriet, unnervingly bright, insufferably determined, and unduly influenced by the fiction of Kipling and Robert Louis Stevenson, sets out to unmask his killer. Aided only by her worshipful friend Healy, Harriet crosses her town's rigid lines of race and caste and burrows deep into their family's history. Wow, this really doesn't want to load for me. What is going on, man? Well, the whole synopsis doesn't want to load. Like, I click read more, and then it has read more again. So I'm not getting the whole synopsis. But it revolves around Harriet. I thought it was going to involve more on Robin's accident, murder. I don't exactly know what happened because no one knows what happened. It was never solved. But I thought there would be more investigation on that. But you see how it affects the mother and how it affects his 2 sisters, Allison and Harriet, and also aunts and uncles, grandparents, and just like the neighborhood in general. But mainly the focus is on Harriet. So I don't know, this book gave me like the feeling of like House on the Prairie kind of vibes. It's very set back, and I don't remember what time period, but it just feels like it's very set in a certain time where racism was very prominent. And there's some people who probably enjoyed this book, but I just didn't. And then it also contained like a lot, like several instances of like racist stereotypes, which I didn't appreciate. Like they mentioned like Palestinian children, or like a Chinese stereotype. The N-word is said multiple times, like as soon as you start reading it. So And you're just basically getting like the day-to-day life of like a 10-year-old girl trying to figure out what happened to her brother. And it wasn't for me. So I wanted to read Donna Tartt's The Secret History, and I don't know, I might push that off. It might not be for me. Then I read Morning Star, the third book in the Red Rising saga by Pierce Brown. Average rating 4.52. I think it's a 3-star for me, which is unfortunate. I enjoyed the second book out of the first 3 of that trilogy a lot. I think I gave that 4 stars. But I don't know, the events in that second book really just enraptured me. And the events in this one just didn't do the same. What was happening just didn't capture my imagination in the same way. Synopsis. Darrow would have lived in peace, but his enemies brought him war. The gold overlords demanded his obedience, hanged his wife, and enslaved his people. But Darrow is determined to fight back. Risking everything to transform himself and breach gold society, Darrow has battled to survive the cutthroat rivalries that breed society's mightiest warriors, climbed the ranks, and waited patiently to unleash the revolution that will tear the hierarchy apart from within. Finally, the time has come. But devotion to honor and hunger for vengeance runs deep on both sides. Darrow and his comrades in arms face powerful enemies without scruple or mercy. Among them are some Darrow's once considered friends. To win, Darrow will need to inspire those shackled in darkness to break their chains, make the world their cruel masters have built, and claim a destiny too long denied and too glorious to surrender. So one of the aspects that I do very much enjoy is Darrow's relationships with his friends and those he leads. Like, I thoroughly enjoy that aspect. Like, I feel like he has genuine connections. There was a moment in this book towards the end that was meant to, like, upset you, and it did upset me. And then as I kept reading, I was like, I don't think I believe what actually happened. And I was right. So if you know, you know. If I was reading, I was like, no way. No way that actually happened. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So the twist almost got me. The last book I read for August was a second poetry collection by Michael Faudet, Winter of Summers, that I bought at the same time I bought the other volume. Has an average rating of 3.81. I gave it 2 stars. Also, poetry books don't really have synopsises, but like for both these volumes, it focused on like love and heartbreak, moving on, and all those kind of topics. So there were like poems I connected to and really enjoyed. Like, I love the way he put the words, or they put the words together. But like the majority of it, I just wasn't enjoying. I just wasn't. So I'm probably gonna donate both of those books, unfortunately, and someone will hopefully find them and enjoy them a lot more than I did. Also, like, another aspect I was thinking of, like, all the poems didn't feel like they went together. Like, I like poetry collections that are like curated in such a way to tell kind of a story, but I feel like this wasn't that way, so that was probably another reason why I didn't enjoy these as much. I just didn't connect to it. But yeah, that is my July and August wrap up. Hopefully it's not hours long, because I really tried to get through these books without like rambling on and on and on, because I ramble, man. I really ramble. But hope you guys enjoyed. Share whatever books that you have been reading, new faves, suggestions, recommendations, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye-bye.